Okay. Anything else? John, what's your favorite? Demo Derby. No? What do you
that
like?
wasn't fun.
One year they had Conway Twitty there, and there were about 20,000 people there. That was a heck of a crowd. That was about 30 years ago. Big crowd. Big, 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 big. Bus, what do you like? Yep, cool. And you, of course, Band Day Friday, right? Yeah. All right, hit the lights. Gratz Fair Association mentioned this, obviously, yesterday. And let's move on. The grand entrance. Okay, the grand entrance. You can see this building. That is the video that I asked you to watch. That was actually called the Odd Fellows. Okay. And this is where, let me just show you this. This is where the Odd Fellows was located. We don't need to go through all that jargon there. But this is where it was located, which I don't know what's in there now. What is in there now?
The cylinder, well, the bottom part is like a hairdresser,
Okay.
and then the top part it's like shopping for dresses.
It's a bridal shop.
Okay. I think the Sittlinger that owns it, the daughter, I think she is actually a pilot also.
It's Sadie Sillinger's family.
Yeah, I think she's a pilot. But the grand entrance. I think is something to mention there. You saw the video, and that was held in this. That was called the Odd Fellows. So let me just explain this. Now that's not the name of the building. The name of the building is Grand Entrance. That's where the Odd Fellows met. The Odd Fellows. Let me just explain this. That was a charitable organization, kind of like your Rotary clubs, JCs. What would be another good example of a community organization? Thinking Rotary Club. I'm stuck on that one. Okay, Tall Cedars. And what they do is basically the best way of saying it, a lot of nice things for people. I know for a fact one time, and I won't say who or anything else, but they helped someone that couldn't afford glasses get glasses. Okay, they make sure that food organizations are supported, things like that. All right, if someone's in need of a meal, they make sure that the food bank gets food to people. That's what they used to do. Now, you saw in the video, Oddfellows is now closed. Okay, it is no longer an organization there, but they have done a lot of nice things for people. Sometimes they even do things to help people, and the people don't even know they're doing it. Okay. But that's what was held there in that building, and that's why I'm going over that. Okay, let's talk about Simeon United Lutheran Church. You watch this video. Where's the cornerstone? I thought we watched the video. Where's the cornerstone? Got quiet in here. Go ahead. On the new building, yes, there's one on the new building, but the original one, where's the original one? Go ahead. Man, you can't find it. There was one, they just don't know whatever happened to it. Okay? But the church began as Lutheran, Reformed until 1969 when they merged to be called what it is today, and that's the Simeon United Lutheran Church. Okay? The Simeon United Lutheran Church. Rather interesting there. Rather interesting. But the original cornerstone, they can't find it. I like that picture there from 1977 compared to today. A lot of history there in that church. The Gratz National Bank owns the building, uses it for storage, and then after the church was bought, they built a church outside of Gratz, which is now an independent church. So it actually started in the borough. That one's actually technically not in the borough, okay? But that is the Simeon's Lutheran Church today. Okay. As you can see there, Gratz Union Cemetery. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Oh, come on. Where are my thinkers at?
Cemetery for grass people.
Well, why do they throw the word union in there? There is a rhyme and a reason.
All the wars.
Exactly. There are Civil War soldiers buried there. Okay. I do want you to know that. There are Civil War soldiers buried in the Lutheran Church Cemetery. Gratz Union Cemetery. Okay. And of course, Pastor Ridge is gone. Been gone for years now, but the video was obviously very informative with the information on the history of it. Okay. Okay, so we watched the video. Let's go to page 30. I thought this was really interesting. What is a philanthropist? Who can tell me what a philanthropist is? What's a philanthropist? I mentioned it the other day. Nobody can tell me what a philanthropist is. Go ahead.
Like a person who organizes like a food drive.
Yeah, it's someone that does charity work. Usually you think of a philanthropist as someone that has millions of dollars and they make sure they give it to schools and things like that. Philanthropy, let me explain this. The rationale behind a philanthropy is you help people help themselves. Like you don't just give money to people, but you help them maybe build a warehouse that someone can work at or something like that. Okay? That's what philanthropists do. Rockefeller is a good example. He built Rockefeller Center. Okay? Carnegie built colleges. Again, philosophy is helping people help themselves. Well, Carnegie, does anybody know what industry he was famous for? You better raise your hand. I think Master knows back there too. As a US2 graduate. Seth, you want to try? Go ahead, tell him, John. Steel, yes, Carnegie Steel, which became the first billion-dollar corporation. Okay. Carnegie actually has a tie here to that church. Okay, let's take a look. Hit the lights here if you would. The Simeon Church Bell in Oregon. Now, if you ever try to buy an organ, especially one for in a church, you're going to be shelling out some bucks. More than what you'd be paying for a crab cake at the auction on a Friday night. Master, will you read for us, please?
The new bell is a black Lutheran and Reformed church was bought in Ohio at a cost of $145. The cost was shared by both congregations. The weight of the bell was 648 pounds. It was placed in the steeple on September 2nd, 1904, and run for the first time on Harvest Home Services on September 4th, 1904.
Reverend.
Reverend Hutter
Yep.
officiated for the Lutheran congregation. The bell tolled for the first time September 16, 1904, on the funeral of Mary Greenwald, aged 61 years. It was dedicated on October 29th and 30th, 1904.
Okay, and watch this next part here. Bus, go ahead. Now you know why I like paper.
Just lock your screen.
Or just lock the screen. What he said. Just go to page 30. We got one paragraph to go. Here comes Faith to help.
And it doesn't send you all the way up. You can just turn. You just want me to read?
Well, I just want you to know what we're talking about, Buzz. Hurry up and read. The organ's soon going to be another year old.
The new toy organ was dedicated on April 21st, 1907. There were about 1,000 people present at the occasion for the morning, noon, and evening services. Cost of the organ was $1,500. Half of the money was contributed to Andrew.
Is this really text?
I'll look at it then. Oh, no. That's the wrong one. That shouldn't be in that stack. That one,
Okay.
that one can't be there. These other ones can go. Okay, in that last paragraph, I think that's really interesting there. Why do you think Carnegie only donated half the money? He could have donated more. Goes on with what I told you. What's he trying to do? Go ahead.
Just trying to help themselves.
Yeah. I'll do it with you, but I'm not doing it for you. Boy, I can remember my grandpa saying that, and boy, did I ever make me red in the face. All I wanted him to do was tie the hook on the line. And he said, that's enough of that. You're old enough. Your turn. Now you do it. Look at Ski. He knows what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? You don't hate that. No, just do it. Works better when you do it. I tried that as long as I could. Travin, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it didn't last too long. Nope. Now you do it. Handle your business. Okay, so there you go. And there's Andrew Carnegie. We get the idea. Moving right along. There is a picture of the organ. And that's what I'm telling you. Go ahead and hit the lights there, please. Yeah, obviously, it would cost a couple bucks for that thing. I'll bet you one of those pipes alone would be a couple $1,000 just for the pipe, just for one of them. And they're pretty salty. Okay, there's Oddfellows, as we just mentioned. Let me just show you a couple more pictures. That was Reed's Furniture over in Gratz. Pretty cool. And there is some of the symbols of the Oddfellows. Did you know that that was the original firehouse right beside it?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know it, John?
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's actually the first one. Okay. And there's membership to get into the lodge. Okay. All right. We want to talk about Leonard Reedy. Leonard Reedy is from Gratz. I talked about him in U.S. history class when we talked about the War of 1812. So let's talk about Leonard Reedy. Good old Leonard. Did you ever see that historical marker, Schlegel? It's on the street. Now, let me tell you something. Before you even start worrying about writing anything down, you see that historical marker? They're very, 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 very. Master, you only need to write down one very. They are extremely strict about who they give those historical markers to. They don't just pass them out like peppermint patties. I couldn't think of anything. Okay? There you go. If you want, it's up to you. You have to go through one heck of a process, and it usually takes 10 years at least. Okay? So if you want to get a historical marker, and we want to eventually celebrate Spencer Bus Day, it's going to take us a long time. Okay? Lots of papers filled out in triplicate. All right, so who is this guy? Colton, will you read the screen, please?
Leonard Reedy is mostly known for his work on the PA long rifle. He lived in Gratz, where he's now buried. There's a historical marker in the town.
Okay, historical marker. That's on the other side of the street from where the Liz Eyes is. Okay, which I think is pretty cool. On the same side as Shades Market.
Oh, you mean the Great Gratz Casino?
Okay, let's take a look. Leonard Reedy. Some call it that. Go, Schlegel, go.
Leonard Reedy has been recognized as one of the most skillful gunsmiths during the period 1650 and 1850. Reedy learned his trade in the Wilmsdorf
Yep.
Reading School of Gunsmithing. Reedy was born in Lehigh County, later moving to Schuylkill County before moving to Gratz around 1850. He was a veteran of the War of 1812. He married twice and had 13 children. He had his twin sons, Henry and William, served in the Civil War. In 1818, Reedy settled into a new house and shop. He practiced his skills in Gratz for more than 20 years, but he was not really famous in the gun world for 120 years. Through the efforts of a group, Pennsylvania Kentucky rifles enthusiasts, Reedy was discovered and Gratz put on the gun collecting map. Joe Kindin.
We're not worried about that. Obviously, you get the idea. But there you can see where he lived. Okay, and he is actually buried in Simeon Gratz Cemetery. Again, a veteran. Died in 1837, but I think that's pretty cool. He's considered one of the greatest gunsmiths ever to walk North America. Obviously, that's saying a lot when you have people like Winchester, Remington, Ruger, okay? And by the way, those are real people, not just names. I mean, that's saying something big. According to my uncle, who is a gun collector, he has all kinds of guns and knows all about it. Flies actually all over the world to gun shows and that kind of stuff. He said that he saw one of these for sale for $40,000. I had a student a few years ago. They were cleaning out their grandmother's attic. Grandmother's attic sometimes gets full of stuff, just gets piled up. They did not find a Leonard Reedy gun, but they did find one similar to it and did sell for several $1,000s. So you never know what you find. Maybe you'll find a Leonard Reedy someday. I don't know. Pretty cool though. Okay, right here in Graz. That's the house he lived in, by the way. Okay, so what's this idea of we almost had a railroad? Well, this was the Midland Railroad. Okay, let's go to page 47, please. The Midland Railroad. Just do it. Quit whining. I said quit whining. Lights, if you would. Well, we almost had a railroad over in Graz. Bus, if you would.
Strangers to the Lycans Valley traveling Route 25 between Graz and Lewisburg will see, now to their right, then to their left, cuts and embankments which bear all the earmarks of an abandoned railroad. The older natives of the valley know that these evidences of interference with the natural terrain of the valley are the remains of the Midland Pennsylvania Railroad, the railroad that died of boredom.
Now, what happened here is you already had the Lycans Valley Railroad. What they tried to do was put a railroad from Millersburg to Berrysburg to Graz. Okay, and they actually started building it, is what this paragraph is saying. Just take a second, you can look at the pictures there, and I'll show you some pictures up on the screen. But what happened is they simply put lost their funding. Okay, they tried to sell bonds to pay for the railroad, and a lot of them ended up not covering the cost of it. So they actually ended up abandoning the project. Okay, go ahead and hit the lights here. If I can show you this here, okay, that's the dock where we can go into the reading, but I think we get the idea. But you can see the red line. That's where it was supposed to go. Now, how many of you live over by Berrysburg? Obviously, quite a few of you. If you go over to Berrysburg, you can actually see where they were putting the road in, and I'll show you this in a second. But this was supposed to be the rail line. If you drive down 25 right here at Killinger and you know what to look for, you can actually see, okay, where they were putting the bridges in over the small creeks over here, but it just never happened. And again, this is called the Midland Railroad, okay? There you can see some of the construction. This is just north of Millersburg there where you have Reed Sunoco. In that area, there's a tire shop out there. And before you get to the VFW there, where the cannon sits along the river, that's where this is, okay? But they were putting it in. Right here, you can see Berrysburg. Now, this is Route 225 coming into Berrysburg. And if you look to the left where that cemetery is, you can actually see where they were bringing the road right across. And then it was actually going to go like this, okay? And this concrete slab is still there. Just when you get over to Dollar General, which is actually right here, you can see it if you look for it, okay? But I think that's really cool. Okay, there's a good picture of it. How many of you have seen that over by Berrysburg? If you drive to the auction off of 25, you've seen that, okay? And that was to put the bridge across 25 so that the train obviously could cross the highway, all right? There you can see another picture of it, but that's what it was going to look like. This is Berrysburg right here. But it just never completed. Oh, I have Leonard Reedy's house out of order. That's where Leonard Reedy lived. Okay, last thing for the chapter I want you to be aware of, the Topolhucan Path. The Topolhucan Path comes down from North Pennsylvania, comes right down through Herndon. Probably seen the signs if you drive from here up to Sunbury. It actually goes over around Graz and comes down right by the Tri-Valley High School. You've probably seen the historical marker. Why am I telling you about this, and what does it have to do with Graz? Well, it was a Native American trail. Why am I telling you this? In addition to that, another group of people it was used by.
Simon Group.
No, he's not walking the trail. He's going to ride and coach. Another group of people using Native American paths, trails.
The miners.
Although some did, I'm sure. I'll throw this out there. They did it in secret.
Oh,
Good.
Lonnie McGuire's.
No, good guess though. Molly McGuire's weren't really in the Tri Valley area though. Weren't in the Gratz area. You're thinking. Go ahead.
what about like runaway slaves?
Now we're getting somewhere. Used, we think, very much so by slaves on the Underground Railroad. Let me talk about this a little bit more. All right, here you can see the trail. You see where that comes down from Shamokin. All right. You see the red dots. All right. Now, you see this is Good Spring right here. Okay. And then here's Pine Grove. But you can see right, this is Keffers. Right here is Higgins and Valley View. So Gratz would be right over in here. There's a deep creek. Okay.
That is one heck of a walk.
No. Trails aren't short. Now, believe very much that this was used by slaves on the Underground Railroad. Here's your Tulpehocken Path. Now, this is over by the Tri-Valley High School. That's where I took this picture. In addition to this, I want to show you this picture, which is obviously very poor quality. However, if you go to Gratz and you turn back by the water tower and you go back to the mountain, you will find this house. And when I say we, I'm talking about local historians, we believe this actually did house slaves on the Underground Railroad. Okay? Here's another picture of it. And I want you to know this. This was actually called Fort Jackson. Fort Jackson was where residents of the valley who were going to fight in the Civil War actually did their training. That is back at the mountain, back at the state game lands. That's where Fort Jackson was. It was actually named for Andrew Jackson, who was dead by the time the Civil War started and had nothing to do with it. But that is back at the mountain. I think this is pretty cool stuff. Okay, and now I'm showing you what another local historian sent to me. So this is his writing. It's Norm Gasborough, who we've taken a look at. Okay, I showed you the LichensValley.org, the website. All right, so let's take a minute and read through this. Seth, if you would.
Found some information that Fort Jackson House is located on the southern Gratz, or now at a recreational location known as Cold Spring. The ruins of the structure people call Fort Jackson. No one really knows why it's called that. However, it's believed to be part of the practice ground for the pre-Civil War Gratztown militia. Others say it's a spot for the Underground Railroad. The African Americans of Gratz were known to live here at Fort Jackson before and during the Civil War. The old house is now milestones in the now farm area.
I think this is really cool now. Notice that Pennsylvania did have what were called all black regiments. Pennsylvania, the most famous is the Massachusetts 54th Regiment. Pennsylvania had all black regiments. Now they had white officers, but African Americans did serve in the Civil War. Why am I showing you this and why do I mention that? What does that have to do with Gratz? Take a look at this soldier's name. Anybody see the name at the top? Anybody want to try to figure out what his name is? We'll have a few minutes. Somebody go. Go ahead.
First name Mark.
Marks Hornet. Do you see something that might look a little unique there? Anybody figuring it out? There's a catch here. Okay, I'll give you the answer, although I'd rather you come up with it on your own. Go ahead.
Does it have the very top, like above the name?
Well, there is a date there, yes. Does anybody believe for 1 second that's his real name? Is the question. Why would he have a different name? Why would he have an alias?
Because he's a runaway slave.
Bingo. Bingo. Now, he lived in Gratz. And why do I tell you about Mark's Hornet? Stop moving around. We're here till 2:35. See me after. Mark's Hornet served in the Pennsylvania, as you can see here, the 24th Regiment, which was called the U.S. Colored Troop Regiment. They served actually during the Battle of Gettysburg. He served in the Battle of Gettysburg. Okay. As you can see here, and we'll have to look at this very quickly, there appears to be a family identified. Now, we do know that this family lived out by the special place. Okay? They moved from Gratz to Elizabethville. But you notice that no one ever collected his muster papers, which means that probably him and his wife died right as the Civil War was ending, or possibly after the war, the Battle of Gettysburg, or the fact that he was still on the run after that. We don't know. But it was really interesting to find this information. Again, no one would ever think that it's probably not his real name. Okay? But here, if you look, this is Elizabethville. Okay, and here's where the railroad tracks, okay, came right through, as I've shown you before. He actually lived in this home, which was owned by the Rudisill family. He lived in that house, though. I think that's rather interesting. No one ever collected his pension, so we don't know whatever happened to him or his wife. Okay, test will be tomorrow. Talk more. Have a seat. Have a seat. Any questions on the review? We got about a minute there. Go ahead and take that out. Hit the lights, Gracie. Any questions? Anybody need a copy of the review?